Hello, Pisces. Welcome back, my beautiful dreamers of the zodiac. I hope you're doing well today. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's see what's showing up in your energy. This is a general love reading, so take what resonates and leave the rest. Before we even get started, I have to say, the energy coming through these cards is strong. Somebody seems completely lost in their thoughts about you. Okay, Pisces, let's see what's happening here. The first thing I'm noticing is that your silence is speaking louder than words right now. And honestly, I don't think this person expected that. They may have assumed that eventually you would reach out. Eventually, you would break the distance. Eventually, things would go back to the way they were. But instead, you've gone quiet. You've pulled your energy back. And now they're sitting alone with thoughts they can no longer avoid. As I'm looking at the moon card, it feels like this person is wandering through a maze of emotions. Nothing seems clear to them anymore. One moment they're convinced you've moved on. The next moment they're telling themselves that maybe you still care. It's like they're trapped between hope and fear, constantly replaying old memories and trying to figure out what your silence really means. You know, Pisces, this energy feels restless, very restless. I keep seeing someone checking their phone, looking at old messages, reading conversations they already know by heart, wondering if they should send something, wondering if they should say sorry, wondering if it's already too late. And then the Nine of Swords appears. Oh my God, this person is carrying so much anxiety right now. I don't even feel like they're sleeping properly. Their mind keeps circling back to you. They try distracting themselves with work, with responsibilities, with daily life, but somehow your energy keeps finding its way back into their thoughts. It's almost frustrating. The harder they try not to think about you, the more they think about you. The harder they try to move on, the more memories begin surfacing. And these aren't random memories either. They're remembering the little things, the way you spoke to them, the way you understood things they never had to explain, the way your presence felt comforting during difficult moments. Yeah, they're remembering all of it. The Hermit is showing up now, and I feel like this person has become very withdrawn. They're spending a lot of time alone, maybe more than usual. They're reflecting on choices they've made, conversations they avoided, feelings they never expressed. What's interesting is that this doesn't feel like somebody who has all the answers. Quite the opposite. This feels like somebody who suddenly realizes how much they don't know. They don't know what you're feeling. They don't know if there's someone else. They don't know if you still think about them. And because they don't know, their imagination keeps filling in the blanks. Every possibility feels real. Every fear feels possible. Every silence feels heavier than the last. I also feel like there's pride involved here. Not in a cruel way. More like someone who wants to reach out but keeps talking themselves out of it. They write the message, delete the message, think about calling, decide not to. Tell themselves they'll do it tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes and they freeze all over again. And Pisces, I have to say, the Page of Cups is sitting here in a very interesting position. Because beneath all this confusion, beneath all this overthinking, there's still something soft inside this person. Something vulnerable, something that wants to speak. I don't think they're looking for conflict. I don't think they're looking for another argument. Honestly, it feels like they're looking for a doorway, a small opening, some sign that they haven't completely lost access to your heart, because the emotions they've been trying to manage are becoming harder to contain. And the longer they sit with these feelings, the stronger those feelings seem to become. It's almost like they've reached a point where ignoring them isn't working anymore. Something is building here. Something they've been holding back for a very long time. And as I continue looking at these cards, Pisces, I'm starting to feel that this person may be realizing something about you that they didn't fully understand before. Because as these cards continue to unfold, I'm seeing the Six of Cups, and the energy shifts in a very interesting way. The anxiety is still there, the questions are still there, but underneath all of it is something much softer. It's nostalgia. It's memory. It's the realization that certain moments meant far more than they admitted at the time. You know, Pisces, I don't think this person is remembering the dramatic moments. They're remembering the quiet ones, the conversations that lasted longer than they planned, the times you checked on them when nobody else did, the moments when they were carrying something heavy and somehow you knew, without them having to explain it. Oh my God, that's what keeps coming through. This person feels like you understood things that other people missed, and I don't think they appreciated that while they had it. The Queen of Cups is showing up here, and as soon as I see her, I feel this wave of warmth surrounding your energy. It's almost like this person is finally looking back and recognizing how safe they felt around you. Not perfect. Not without challenges. Just safe. There's a difference. You gave them space to be themselves. You gave them room to be vulnerable, even during moments when they struggled to express what was happening inside. And honestly, I feel like this realization is catching them off guard. Because they may have spent so much time focusing on what wasn't working, that they overlooked everything that was. They overlooked the patience, the kindness, the emotional support, the way you could calm situations without even trying, the way your presence alone seemed to bring balance into their world. It's almost like they're seeing old memories through a completely different lens. Things that once felt ordinary suddenly feel precious. Things they assumed would always be there suddenly feel irreplaceable. And that realization hurts. Not because you're doing anything wrong, not because you've said anything. It's because your absence is creating clarity. The star is appearing now, and I have to tell you, Pisces, this person seems to be connecting dots that were scattered for a very long time. They're beginning to understand that you represented something rare in their life: hope, comfort, a sense of emotional healing. For some of you, they may have gone through periods where life felt chaotic, confusing, or overwhelming. During those moments, your energy felt like a light they could quietly return to. Maybe they never said it. Maybe they never even realized it themselves. Yet looking back, they can see it now. And the strange thing is, the more they recognize your value, the more they realize how much they took for granted. Yeah, that's where some of this sadness is coming from, because hindsight can be a powerful thing. There are moments when this person catches themselves wondering why they didn't say more, why they didn't fight harder, why they assumed there would always be another opportunity. I keep hearing someone replaying conversations in their head, not because they're looking for mistakes, because they're searching for signs, trying to figure out when everything started changing, trying to understand why they ignored feelings that were growing beneath the surface. And then judgment enters the reading. The energy becomes very reflective, very honest. This feels like somebody standing in front of a mirror they can no longer avoid. Not blaming anyone, not pointing fingers, just finally seeing things as they are. They're beginning to acknowledge their role in the distance between you. They're beginning to acknowledge the moments when fear spoke louder than love, the moments when silence felt easier than vulnerability, the moments when they convinced themselves they had more time. And Pisces, I have to be honest, this awakening doesn't feel comfortable. It feels emotional. It feels raw. There may even be moments when this person becomes overwhelmed by how much they've been carrying inside. Because once those emotional walls begin cracking, everything behind them starts pouring forward. The memories, the regrets, the appreciation, the feelings they kept postponing, all of it. And as these emotions continue rising to the surface, I'm getting the sense that something inside them is preparing for a much bigger shift than they expected. Because the energy changes again, Pisces. It feels less focused on the past and much more focused on the present reality of who you are becoming. And honestly, I don't think this person was ready for that. The Nine of Pentacles appears, and immediately I get the sense that they're watching from a distance, noticing things they never paid attention to before, noticing how much more confident you seem, noticing how much lighter your energy feels, noticing how you're no longer standing in the same place emotionally. You may not even realize it. You may just be living your life, going to work, taking care of yourself, focusing on your healing, spending time with people who make you feel appreciated. Yet somehow every step forward you take feels magnified in this person's eyes. They're paying attention, much more than you think. And what keeps hitting them is the realization that your world doesn't seem to revolve around them anymore. Yeah, that part stings. Because there was a time when they felt secure in your presence. A time when they assumed your feelings would always be there waiting for them. The certainty they once felt is disappearing, and in its place is uncertainty, questions, doubt. The kind of doubt that keeps someone awake when everything around them is quiet. The Empress is sitting in front of me now, and wow, this card changes the entire atmosphere. Because this isn't just about attraction. It's deeper than that. This person is seeing growth. They're seeing somebody who has continued to evolve regardless of what happened. Somebody who kept moving, kept learning, kept becoming. It's almost like they're looking at you through fresh eyes. The same Pisces, yet somehow completely different. And that contrast is creating a lot of emotion. I keep hearing this person asking themselves questions. What if I waited too long? What if somebody else sees what I failed to see? What if they're happier without me? Those thoughts seem to be circling constantly, not because they want to think them, because they can't stop thinking them. The more you shine, the more they seem to realize what they risked losing. And Pisces, I have to tell you something. Jealousy is showing up here. Not necessarily in a toxic way, more in the form of fear. Fear disguised as jealousy. Fear disguised as curiosity. Fear disguised as questions they don't know how to ask. Because when the Ace of Cups appears, I start feeling this emotional urgency building beneath the surface. This person is becoming increasingly aware that their feelings are not fading. If anything, those feelings seem to be expanding, growing stronger, growing deeper. And that's creating another problem. Because emotions are much easier to manage when you believe you'll always have another chance. When uncertainty enters the picture, everything changes. Suddenly, every missed opportunity matters. Every conversation matters. Every moment matters. I keep feeling like this person is imagining different scenarios. What if you meet someone new? What if you're already talking to someone? What if somebody else is making you smile? Oh my God. Those thoughts seem to trigger something inside them. Not because they want to control you, not because they own you. It's because they're finally understanding that life keeps moving forward, and you are moving forward too. The Page of Swords is making this energy even more intense, because curiosity is becoming difficult for them to manage. I feel someone checking social media, looking for clues, reading between the lines, trying to figure out what you're doing, trying to understand who you're spending your time with, trying to gather information without actually reaching out. It's almost funny in a way, because they want answers, yet they're afraid of asking the questions directly. So they observe, they wonder, they speculate. And sometimes their imagination creates stories that may not even be true. Still, the emotional impact feels very real to them. What stands out most is that this person no longer seems worried about what happened yesterday. They're worried about tomorrow. They're worried about a future where you continue growing while they remain stuck in hesitation. They're worried about becoming a chapter you've already finished reading. And the more they think about that possibility, the more restless their energy becomes. Because something inside them is beginning to realize that staying silent may no longer feel like a safe option. The energy becomes heavier here, Pisces. Not dramatic, not chaotic, just unavoidable. Like someone finally reaching a point where they can no longer run from their own reflection. Justice appears. And the first thing I notice is accountability. Not the kind that's forced by other people. The kind that arrives when you're sitting alone with your thoughts. And there's nobody left to blame. Because I keep feeling this person replaying certain moments, certain conversations, certain decisions. And for the first time, they're looking at them differently. They're no longer focusing on what happened to them. They're focusing on what they contributed to the situation. Yeah, that's a very different perspective. I think there was a period when they convinced themselves that the distance between you happened naturally, that circumstances got in the way, that timing was the problem, that life simply pulled the two of you apart. Yet the more honest they become with themselves, the harder it is to maintain that story. They're starting to see the moments when they pulled away, the moments when they stayed silent, the moments when fear made their decisions for them. And honestly, Pisces, I feel like this realization hurts. because awareness can be uncomfortable when it arrives late. The Three of Swords is sitting here, and the emotion connected to it feels raw. Not because someone is trying to create pain, because pain that was ignored is finally demanding attention. I keep sensing someone who thought they had everything under control, someone who believed they could compartmentalize their emotions, push them aside, deal with them later, move forward without fully processing what happened. Oh my God. That strategy is not working anymore. Every feeling they avoided seems to be returning all at once. The sadness, the regret, the disappointment, even the things they never said out loud. It's almost like emotional walls that stood for months suddenly begin cracking. And once those cracks appear, everything behind them starts pouring through. I also feel this person becoming increasingly aware of what your absence has revealed. Because when you were present, there were certain comforts they simply expected. Certain forms of support they assumed would always be available. Certain emotional connections they thought would remain untouched no matter what happened. Only after losing access to those things did they begin understanding their value. And Pisces? That's where the Five of Cups starts speaking very loudly. This card feels full of regret. Not regret over what could never have been. Regret over what actually existed. I keep hearing someone thinking, why didn't I appreciate it more? Why didn't I say what I was feeling? Why did I keep waiting? These questions seem to follow them everywhere. During work, during quiet moments, during random parts of the day when they least expect it. Because once someone begins seeing things clearly, it's difficult to go back to the version of the story that protected them. And that's exactly what seems to be happening. The truth is becoming harder to avoid. The truth that they cared more than they admitted. The truth that losing you affected them more than they expected. The truth that they may have created some of the very distance they're now grieving. I don't feel self-pity here. I feel realization. And realization often arrives hand in hand with grief. The Tower enters the reading. Wow, this changes everything. Because this doesn't feel like an external event. This feels internal. This feels like a belief system collapsing, a narrative falling apart, an illusion breaking. It's almost like this person has spent so much time telling themselves one version of reality that they forgot to examine whether it was true. Now the cracks are everywhere. They're seeing things they didn't want to see, feeling things they didn't want to feel, acknowledging things they hoped would disappear on their own. And the more they try to hold everything together, the harder it becomes. I keep seeing emotional pressure building, pressure that has been accumulating for a very long time. Because there are words unsaid. There are apologies unsaid. There are feelings unsaid. Everything that was postponed keeps demanding attention. Everything that was buried keeps finding its way back to the surface. Honestly, Pisces, this person may be reaching a point where remaining silent feels more painful than speaking up. And that's important. Because the energy I'm seeing here doesn't feel finished. It feels like somebody standing in the middle of a personal awakening, realizing they can no longer pretend nothing happened, while something deep inside them begins preparing for a decision they've been avoiding for far too long. The energy softens here, Pisces. Not because the emotions disappear, because they finally begin moving somewhere. I can see the King of Cups showing up, and immediately it feels like this person is trying to get control of everything that's been happening inside their heart. Not suppressing it, not running from it, just trying to understand it. Because for a while their feelings seemed tangled, confusing, contradictory. One day they wanted to reach out. The next day they convinced themselves to stay silent. One moment they felt hopeful. The next moment they felt afraid. Yet something has changed. There is a maturity entering this energy, a willingness to sit with their emotions instead of avoiding them. And honestly, Pisces, I think that's important. Because what I'm seeing isn't somebody who wants to play games anymore. This feels like somebody who wants clarity, somebody who wants honesty, somebody who has spent so much time thinking about what happened that they're beginning to realize they can't think their way out of this situation. Eventually, feelings need words. Eventually, thoughts need action. I keep hearing this person mentally rehearsing conversations. Not arguments, conversations. The kind where they finally tell you what was happening behind the scenes. The kind where they explain things they never knew how to explain before. The kind where they stop pretending everything was okay. Because there are things they wish you understood. Things they wish they had said sooner. Things they wish they hadn't kept locked away. And Pisces, the Knight of Cups is stepping forward. That energy feels significant. Because it's no longer just about reflection. It's about movement. I don't know if this is a message, a phone call, a conversation, a chance encounter. For each of you, it may look different. Yet I keep feeling somebody standing at the edge of action. Almost like they're gathering courage, gathering confidence, trying to find the right words, trying to find the right moment, trying to figure out how to approach someone who means so much to them. There's vulnerability here, real vulnerability, because one of their biggest fears isn't rejection, it's discovering they've waited too long. Yeah, that seems to be weighing heavily on them. I keep feeling this concern that you may no longer be standing in the same place emotionally, that you've grown beyond what existed before, that you found peace without them, that you've learned how to move forward. And honestly, Pisces, part of them admires that. Part of them is proud of your growth. Yet another part wonders whether there's still room for them in your story. The Eight of Wands suddenly enters, and wow, everything feels faster. The emotional hesitation that has been lingering throughout this reading begins shifting. The overthinking starts losing its grip. The waiting starts feeling unbearable. It's almost like the pressure that's been building internally finally reaches a point where something has to give. I keep seeing energy that wants expression. Energy that wants communication. Energy that wants to bridge a gap that has existed for too long. Because silence can only carry a person so far. Eventually, the heart starts demanding something more. And what fascinates me is that this doesn't feel impulsive. It feels overdue. Like somebody who has spent months trying to organize their thoughts, finally realizing that no perfect moment is ever going to appear. No perfect script. No perfect outcome. Just a choice. Speak or remain silent. Move forward or remain stuck. And Pisces, I think they understand the weight of that choice now. The sun appears as the final card in front of me. The atmosphere changes immediately. Everything feels lighter, clearer, warmer. Not because every problem disappears, because truth begins finding its way into the open. I keep feeling this desire for honesty, for transparency, for authenticity. This person seems tired of carrying hidden feelings, tired of pretending they don't care, tired of acting as though your absence hasn't affected them. There is something very human about this energy, very sincere, very real. And the more these cards unfold, the more I feel that this person is approaching a crossroads, where emotions can no longer stay hidden in the shadows. Because somewhere between the memories, the regrets, the fear, and the hope, they're beginning to understand exactly what they want. Pisces, I feel like this story is still being written. Some answers may arrive sooner than expected, while others may take a little more time to reveal themselves. Either way, don't forget how far you've come and how much you've grown. The energy here keeps bringing me back to one thing. Your silence created space for truth to surface. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this moment with me. I appreciate you more than you know. As always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and trust your own inner guidance. Pisces, you are deeply appreciated, and I can't wait to connect with you again in the next reading. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and keep following your heart. Okay, bye-bye.